Hey everyone, welcome back to BetSports Golf, the 2023 Charles Schwab Challenge, coming off of a fairly exciting, enjoyable Oak Hill PGA Championship. Although I took an absolute just bath. It was probably my worst week of the year. Hoping maybe Andy did a little bit better. How we doing, bud?
Yeah, matchups. It sucks that I cheer for one more than the others because I stake them the same. But the one I put in the newsletter, I was cheer for a little more because it's a little more street cred. I don't even remember who it was. I was fading Mackenzie Hughes, who did not make the cut, and my golfer did. And that was nice because then you win your matchup, and then my golfer went and shot 14 over for the weekend, which is funny. It's like, well, at least you saved it for Saturday. We got it home. My other two, somebody pointed this out in the Discord, my other two matchups, I needed Thomas Peters to shoot 4 over on his last 3 holes to get a push, and he did somehow. And those aren't tough holes. Those, we've seen a lot of decent scoring on 16, 17, hell, even sometimes 18. But then the other one I had a -1.5, and he was just sitting on a 1-stroke lead through the whole 4th round, drained a 33-footer on 18, just a walk-off win. So I haven't had great luck lately with stuff. So it's nice to have a little luck in there. Obviously, none of my outrights did okay. My Justin Rose shout was pretty nice, though.
Yep.
If anybody took a top 20, 40 on him, he played really well. I was pretty happy with him. But, I mean, it's just hard. He took Rahm. You expect Rahm to do well, and I guess he was in it, but Rahm, Rory, Homa, Sungjae, especially. I mean, there's some really good golfers, just not a shot in hell.
Burns was 14 over or something on Saturday.
Burns was horrific. He was behind 18 of the 20 PGA pros at certain. He was really rough at times. And it's funny where he's we got him coming in at a place where he's obviously excelled, but it was. I don't want to turn it into the whole live versus PGA thing, but hopefully this is something that maybe unifies it a little. All right, it's not just a bunch of, shit golfers and whatever. They're going to come to majors. They're going to compete. There was, 3-4 guys competing. Of the 16, I think 11 made the cut, which is honestly pretty decent as well, considering some of the names towards the bottom. But Brooksy looked great. Bryson lost some weight and actually looked pretty good.
Athletic, right?
He looks fit. Yeah, as the Brits would say. I'm tempted to bet him at 20-1 at the live event this weekend. Honestly, he looked great. Cam looked good at times. Obviously Brooks and Bryson up there on the leaderboard. There was a few guys. From
DJ danced around for a little bit.
DJ had some nice moments. He had a few nice stretches, but yeah, Brooks just. It did look like I was going to turn golf off for a little bit there Sunday afternoon, where he was 3-4 clear all of a sudden. It's man. And then he gave a couple back and Victor grabbed a couple and suddenly it was close. I'm all right, I guess I'll watch the rest of this. I was going to be kind of mad if it was a runaway, which is funny because we've made the comps to winged foot. And I believe that was the one where he was the only golfer under par to finish the tournament. If I'm correct, it was he was 6 under and he had a 6-shot lead on second place, where it was a little less dramatic, but It was nice to have a little drama down the back stretch, even though Brooksy took it home. And 5 majors. It's really goddamn big accomplishment. Congrats to him. And he went out and celebrated by, we're not going to speculate.
Celebrating, I'm pretty sure.
He looked like he got fucked up at the Panthers game. And then I think they let him in the locker room. There's videos of him just hanging out with the team as they're partying after they took a 3-0 lead in their series to move on to the NHL finals here soon. So good for him. Great week for Brooks. I had an okay week betting. Obviously the outrights didn't do well, but the matchups did. I took an annoying push on one on Sunday, but had a couple nice daily matchups as well. And looking forward to. This is a tournament I like because you do have some good, the course history does matter here. The challenge, it's a challenge, but it's also part of the fun is figuring out some of these courses we don't see too often. But sometimes it's nice to just go back to a course where they've been playing the same goddamn course since before our grandparents met. This has been played here since 1946. It's been a few different names, just like everything else, but they've played here for a long time. It's a great course, a great setup, and like we said, right after the Masters with RBC, it's another one where it's like, shit, we got a great field, and it's not even an elevated event. It's just people. I think people do want to come play this one.
Yeah. Real quick in the live discourse before we jump in is that I think part of it was that it wasn't that we necessarily were crossing them off as like non-entities. It just was really hard to quantify.
Very hard. Yeah.
What's been going on in the past calendar year, considering that they're, especially towards the tail end of last year, and that, there were fewer events, the style was different. And even the way that Brooks described it, he was on with Big Cat last week, and you caught a little bit of that and was just like, yeah, you know what? It's really cool. The music's playing the whole time. It's like you're playing with your boys, and it just is more casual. I've watched a little bit. Like, you just don't have that next level. And it's not surprising that some of these top guys can turn that on when they need to. And obviously we've known for years, Brooks is wired for majors. He's talked about it. He's basically, hey, this is what I'm fighting for. And, sort of that Adam Scott mentality of there's only a handful of events that matter. So it just was really hard to quantify form, considering that they're playing in a very small fields, no cut event with, on these like munis, as you've talked about extensively, and going to a place like Oak Hill that's stretched out and was, I think, a great layout. And I think they've done a fantastic job the last few years. I think Brookline was great. I think Southern Hills was fantastic. And I think Oak Hill showed really well too. And, a lot of the guys spoke to that. They really did like, a lot of the things that they did in terms of setup there. It was hard, but fair, which is really what these courses should be for majors. So, my card, I think, matched that. Like, I had 5 outrights and 3 of them were live guys. Unfortunately, I didn't have the right live guy, but I was definitely open to the fact that these guys were kind of rounding into form. They're playing more events, and, it's not surprising that I think we'll continue to see the best of the best there show up when it matters, when they come back and play with the rest of the guys in the PGA Tour. So, yeah, we can pivot to Colonial. Like you said, this Charles Schwab's been a bunch of stuff, but Colonial has been just a constant here. And it is surprising considering what we've seen happen to the fields in these non-designated events. But I think because, to your point, this has been going around since 1946. We got a lot of Texans in the field because we're back down in Fort Worth,
Yep.
and I think they want to play here quite a bit. But, in relation to what we've seen field-wise, what did Ron note here that we have 26 of the top 43 or the top 50 that are eligible. So that's pretty good. 9 of the top 20 in the world. I mean, we've seen some pretty bad non-designated events, considering that this is coming off of a major and Memorials next week. This is a pretty strong field.
Yeah, like the Honda was seriously like John Deere Classic level kind of
For
field,
sure.
which it's disappointing. It creates some fun betting opportunities, I think, but from a viewer standpoint, from a fan of golf, I'm glad we have good fields and good courses, and this is a fun course. This is one where we've seen it. It was always kind of a shot to shot, station to station place, but then I don't know when do you want to mark the beginning of the distance era? Are we going to call it that? The bombers, like there's always been bombers, but it's like, oh man, this guy's hitting it like 301 on average. He's a bomber. Like, it's not it's not the same.
It's the Tiger shift, right? More guys are
Yeah.
in the weight room. More guys are carry about or worry about like distance and club head speed, and like the technology is kind of coincided with that. And
Yeah,
it's just kind of,
TrackMan shows
yeah,
up, and
totally
we have all this. And there were some where it's like, hey, we've had a couple guys win this who were bombers, because you can cheat around these dog legs a little bit at some point, but it is a lot of dog legs, a lot of small greens, and a lot of tight tree line kind of fairways here where it's like the rough isn't penal. That's a big part of this. It's not a penal rough. It's one of those where if you end up on the wrong side of the fairway, it's going to be worse than ending up 6 feet out in the rough, but on the right side of the fairway. It's always going to be spots where you just don't give yourself the right angle because of the dog legging, because of the setup of this course. So it's so much more important to be, smart and finding the right spots than it is to actually be staying on the fairway. Then I'll talk about one of the stats we use for that. But otherwise, it's tough, but not super tough. I think you probably end up with a 10 to 15 under that wins this. You have some pretty good golfers. And then I love, obviously, when they name chunks of holes. You have the Horrible Horseshoe right off the bat. A lot of the the snake pit and all that. Amen corners, obviously middle of the round, but a lot of them are mid to late round. You don't get a lot of these right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it's a weird course to start with because the first hole is a super easy. I think it may be the easiest hole. I'll double check that.
First and second are very, very easy.
Yeah, there's a par 5 where it's like if you don't birdie this, you're losing to the field essentially at that point. So very, very scoreable par 5, and then the second hole is easy, and then you get thrown right in the fire here with a Horrible Horseshoe, which plays over par. As a rule, it's one of I think the second or third toughest 3-hole stretch out of all 3-hole stretches on tour. So you have a weird start to it. And then obviously we can see what we saw last year. I believe that was last year. Was it Sunday where the weather?
Fourth round last year was a brutal. Yeah. That's part of why Burns won is he went out early. He was 7 strokes behind. The afternoon wave, it was a mess. Barely anyone shot under par. Burns was able to get in the clubhouse, post a number, and let the field just completely fall back to him.
Yeah.
Completely different.
So yeah, I weather tough to predict, especially these Texas winds. But if we end up with something similar to what we saw last year on Sunday, you could have some pretty tough scoring conditions here. And it's funny too, because I think that's going to matter. If we're looking at first round leader stuff, depending on how you feel this course is going to play right off the bat, depending on looking at rainfall amounts that we've got here compared to previous years to see how soft this is going to play right off the bat.
Well, that's it. That early forecasting again, like Tuesday morning. I don't want to get into 48 hours out in weather forecasts. The people that do that professionally have a hard enough time doing it. But it looks like we're getting rain Wednesday, and the wind looks pretty benign for the majority of the event. Which is again that can change quickly here. But as of now, it looks like it's probably set up to have, like you said, more in the teens, whereas last year we were like at 9 under with Scottie and Burns in the playoff. I think we get closer back into the low double digits that we've seen here historically. So again, we'll have to continue to stay dialed in. If you are a subscriber, you can take advantage of our office hours. We get together with our subscribers in Discord on Wednesday afternoon. We'll have more information in terms of what's going on there. If you want to jump in there, $19.99 for a month. Fantastic deal. It gets you the next 5 tournaments, including LACC for the US Open, which I think is going to be a fun one to watch too. So yeah, right now weather looks like it's going to be okay, but Texas can open up and the winds can be problematic at any point here. What are we looking for stats here, buddy? I mean, like you said, we know what happens a lot. Driving distance is guys have done that a little bit, but
helpful. Yeah.
Kevin Kisner, those
Kokrak.
Zach Johnson, and then you have the Kokrak's of the world that have gone out and bombed it. So any style could play here. You just gotta be dialed in terms of irons.
Yeah, it's gonna help shaping the ball both ways. You need to be able to move it left to right. Some guys that can hit a draw and a fade, some guys that are just good off the tee as far as accuracy. Like we said, it's not so much I need you to hit, how many par 4s? There's a 3 par 3. So I need you to hit like 12, 13 fairways today. Like that's not going to be key. I need those drives to land in the right spot on the right side to open up those second shots because the greens are small. You're going to need a guy with good greens and regulations on somebody. That's a stat you could split out on the tool on BetSports Golf is you can go small greens and just go greens and regulation for the last 100 rounds and guys playing into small greens because you're going to need a good proximity here. You're going to need to, find some small stuff. I'm kind of leaning away from putting a little because the greens are smallish, but I still don't hate using some bent grass, splits as far as that. And then, yeah, like we said, the distance, you can shortcut a little if you really can hit the piss out of the ball, but you still need to make your second shots into these small green complexes. And I think that's just going to be so key here because you're going to see a lot of guys that putt well here. And a lot of it's going to come down to, getting yourself in a position to have good proximity. So you have these absolute makeable putts and then you're going to be scoring.
And this place has like the trio of winning gifts, right? They have a giant, as you can see here, if you're watching on YouTube, ginormous trophy. You also get the tartan plaid jacket. And then a couple years ago, they started giving out retro cars. And picture behind me is this year's gift. It is I think it's a 1963 Ford Bronco. It also has the plaid
custom plaid interior.
Yeah. So like the trio here of like post victory gifts, I think is better than really anything else out there. So maybe that's the feel. I mean, that is an excessively large golf tournament trophy. Like, why is that thing so big? It's like the same size as Sam Burns.
What did Burns get? Like an IROC?
Yeah.
It was like it was
too. Like,
it was a Firebird.
Firebird.
79 Firebird with the bird on the fucking hood.
Koepka got like a weird like Jeep type. I forget what that was too. It was
Willys?
It's a really cool new tradition because the car thing is not old. I think it started with Kevin Na a handful of years ago, and I don't know where it was born out of, but yeah, it's pretty cool. You get
the car thing has always been like, hey, BMW is a sponsor,
right?
Or whatever, or Mercedes, and it's like if you hit a hole in one, there's this brand new car. Now it's just like the winner gets, or just buying a random car at an auction or something. Dude, that's seriously like the car that Billy Madison rolls up to high school in with the jean jacket. It's the Firebird with the bird on the hood. So I love it. I'm excited about that. And yeah, I like it when they give away jackets too. So yeah. The trophy, little big, but
it's pretty big.
I mean,
like you think like you got a shelf, or you can't put that thing on a shelf. That thing has to have its own.
No, it's like a floor model at that point. It's like it's going on the corner. You're throwing away a snake plant that's sitting over there, so you can put it in the corner of the room.
Yeah, they had the clip of like Jenna Brooks's wife, fiance, like she wasn't there, but then she had a picture like she was like dusting off the spot.
Oh
yeah, put the new Wanamaker trophy. You couldn't put this if he's never going to come here anyway.
No, you'd have to get the carpenter out there and fix the shelves up.
It would need its own column. So yeah.
Yeah, and this thing Brooks might not play this one.
Probably
ever again.
Not something he was coming to when he was on tour, but yeah, well, so let's just start with the fields. I mean, obviously, better than we expect, but we have some of these Texans at the top of the board that are making the way here, and we're led by.
You want to talk Spieth right away, or do you want to start with Scottie?
Well,
I can't get Jordan out of my mind with the injury. Well, we'll get to that. We'll
go there. We've heard mixed quotes. He talked post round where he looked like he would want to get out if it wasn't a major. Maybe he doesn't even play.
Yeah.
Dealt with, obviously those bunkers were problematic. I think he had a bunker shot and maybe aggravated it, but then is in this field still. So I know this is one that he's played 10 times. He won it once, multiple, I think 3 seconds. 8 of the 10 appearances have been top 10s. Like he's just, even when he kind of sucked for a little bit, he played well here. So yeah, obviously this is a place where he likes to come and has had some great history.
Yeah, it goes back to the live thing from last week where it's like we just didn't know how to approach these guys. And I think we found out we just can't use any of the data from actual live. We got to use our own eyes and say, like, this guy's playing good golf, or he has been a good golfer. He can beat this course like Brooks, where it's like, hey, Taylor Gooch is crushing it. Yeah, Taylor Gooch missed the cut. He didn't play good at all. Like, it's super hard to predict using some of that data. But the same thing goes for Spieth, I believe, where it's like, I don't know. I don't think I'm fading him or betting on him and just kind of avoiding him if it's an injury thing. It's kind of like it feels like maybe he feels like he has to come here because it's a Texas tournament. He missed the other one with the injury, but it's like that retirement party you don't want to go to, but you're going to get shit at work if you like miss it on Monday. So you just go and show up for 20 minutes so nobody can give you hell. You kind of feel like, if that wrist isn't feeling good with, Memorial coming up and the US Open a month away, like why push it here at the Charles Schwab Challenge with a smaller purse? Like it feels like he's a bigger withdrawal kind of risk than some people are maybe posting, and hopefully for those people's money, he withdraws before the tournament. But
right.
I feel like there's a decent chance that, he just catches one wrong out of the rough, or has to take a big chunk to get underneath something, and it twinges a little. I'd be out of there in a hurry. So I'm just straight up Spieth agnostic this week. I think there's probably some leverage to be had in DFS, possibly, depending on how you feel about that. But I just straight up avoided him.
And he's been getting bet because his number is shrinking out there across the board. So it's there's definitely not. I guess I kind of agree with you, but I think it seems like we're in the minority where, people are dialing in a little bit, looking at, hey, course history matters a little bit here. And then this guy's got immaculate course history here. May as well fire. The problem is, like, I didn't know what to do with this week. I feel like Scottie wins this tournament, and I don't want to pay 4-1 to see it through. Like, again, last week just was the same old MO of recent. Scottie is just, some of the putts sometimes are a little bit wonky, but tee to green was absolutely immaculate. He was piping fairways. He would have won here last year if he just didn't get caught in the bad weather wave. And like, Burns made an insane putt from off the green in the playoff to knock him out. Like, I think he would have won it last year. So like, there's some other guys that we'll get to here in the next section, short of 30 that are very interesting to me. But I just decided I'm going to go a little bit lighter. I'm going to go down the board. It's basically Scottie fade to me, because I think he probably wins this golf tournament. So, the way I'm betting outrights, I can't pay 4-1 for Scottie to win here. So I think he wins, and I'm staying away. We can run this clip when he does win. And I'm the sucker that didn't bet him, even though it was available to me.
Yeah, it's like Rahm in Mexico, but I mean, this field is not Rahm in Mexico field. Like,
true,
this is a better field. Like, if Spieth's healthy, Tony is a multi-time winner now in the last year. Homa, I know it didn't look good at the major, but he's a multi-time winner. You've got major winners here sitting down there. You got last year's champ. You got Hovland coming off a pretty good tournament. Sung J.M., same as Homa. Like, if you throw out the major, like, just form god right now. Justin Rose, like, there's so many guys right behind him. That Mexico field was way different, and it wasn't great at all. And you still were just, Rahm was like I think Rahm was like plus 250 or something of that one. So I mean, if you really want to bet Scottie Scheffler, maybe see if you can parlay him with Steve Stricker to win the Champions Tour. I think Steve Stricker's like 4-1 as well. Like, he's playing really good golf.
Yeah,
like he could probably come down here in top 20 at this point. He's playing super good golf right now, and it's not the same as when Phil went up there and just trucked some people. But he should win this week. What's that payout? Let's see. Oh, that's a 26-1 Stricker Scheffler double. That might get a couple bucks for me just because I said it out loud now. But yeah, I went a little further down the board, and I'm super pissed about this. Is a negative CLV has kind of dicked me twice in a row. I had an under in the Lakers game last night, got a bad number, pushed. It took a lot of missed shots to get a push, but if I would have got the late number, I would have got a win. And obviously I was rage chasing too, so I got a couple small live wins. But I bet Tony Finau this morning, 14 everywhere, and then somebody comes in on Bookmaker and just smacks Spieth. Like, some big bets came in on Spieth, and it pushed Finau up to like 17-1. So if you do have offshore, if you're in Canada or whatnot, there's a pretty good number on him, off-market number right now at Chris. And it's the same as I said with Sung Jae and Homa. I'm kind of willing to toss out the performance at the PGA and look at the long-term form on this guy. And it's been a really good year for him. If you go, even back to the, some of the summer months when he was playing really well, and what we've seen over the course of the spring here. And like, yeah, if you look at the form, we didn't mention that too strongly at the outset there, but it is one of the courses where like course history kind of matters a little. It's maybe secondary to Augusta. We've seen it where like it helps if you've played here. And it's not the end all be all, but course history is a little more predictive and correlated here than a lot of places on tour. He's averaged a 15th place finish here the last 5 years. He's had a couple of those have been top 5s, top 10s. He's played really well here. And he's the second best ball striker in the field behind the obvious answer of number one. He's gaining on the field in shots gained, strokes gained, ball striking, 78% of his last 50 rounds. That includes, last week's disaster. So Tony Finau, I bet him at 14. He can probably find a little better number than this. It's one of those where he's going to win. I mean, he's probably going to win a couple times over the next couple of years again. And I like the spot here for him.
Everything about Finau in terms of even short-term form. Like you said, I mean, obviously the longer you go back, the baseline for someone like this is going to pop even stronger. So yeah, I mean, he's Last 36, I have he's second strokes gained tee to green, third in approach, just top 10 overall strokes gains. He dominates these shorter par fours. So we have some shorter par fours, and mostly like we've had a lot of these events where approach buckets of like 200 and 200 plus have been really important. This week it's the opposite. Most of your shots are in the basically 125 to 175 range, and he's really good, especially in the short irons, like wedge in his hand. He's been really awesome as of late. So yeah, it's hard not to like Tony. This feels like a spot similar to Mexico, which we've referenced a few times, where he was kind of the second dog, and here maybe he and Spieth are the second dogs behind Scottie instead of behind Rahm in Mexico. Maybe he just jumps back in there, and these are his events. He likes these not super strong fields, but not like the weakest. He's not playing like Mexico. These aren't full swing season bets, or swing season fields. These are kind of the Tony Finau specials.
Yeah, probably a little better than the 3M one as far as the field, but still like the middling fields. I kind of get what you're saying there. So,
yep.
I don't know. Did you do much? I think you did more bombing than me. I kind of stuck. I stuck near the front page here. Like I said, I'm Spieth agnostic. I'm fading Scheffler. I don't know what to do with Sung Jae. Like that wasn't just he played bad at a major. Like he legitimately played real awful. That was kind of bothersome for me, all things considered, especially looking at his price being sub 20. I worry about that as much as I love Sung Jae. Taking the week off, it was kind of between Tony and Sung Jae, and it sucks I took the guy with the lower price. But same thing with Hovland. Price is probably a little low for me, despite what he did last week. Morikawa short game, I'm still just out on that.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you about. Did you give any consideration to Morikawa? Was it just short game?
A little bit, but yeah, short game. It is going to kind of matter here. I know his irons are pure. He's great with those. He should hit a lot of greens. But if he's not going to hit these greens, then I'm worried about some of the around the green stuff and some of the putting stuff as well. If he's, if we're trying to get up and down constantly. So I did avoid him more at the price, and then kind of gets you into Burns. I don't know what to do with him. Obviously, good course history, but another one that just played like absolute dog shit, and like wasn't just you missed the cut, because a lot of people were like 4, 5, 6, 7 over, and it's tough. It's like you were like 15 strokes over. What are we doing, buddy? So ended up avoiding him at like 25-1 as well, and kind of takes you down to the next tier.
Yeah, I like some of the next tier, and I went even further down. Morikawa was the guy that I considered, and Ron bet Morikawa, Pat James also bet Morikawa for us, and I don't know, like I want the number to be longer, which is part of why. And then I also just like, man, do I really want to take a shot even this close to the top, even though not really close to what Scottie's number is, but it's kind of within Scottie range at this point. So I really think he's probably the way to go. And I just think of what matters here: fairways, irons. Played pretty well here. He I think second in this is the first place we came back to in 2020, and he lost in the playoff to Berger here. And, played well here some other times too. So I feel like this is just one of those setups where historically, like, this is a young guy. We're going to be betting him, or have the opportunity to bet on him a lot in the next handful of years. And these are the spots where I think this makes the most sense, where, again, he's not like super short, but he's like field average in terms of distance, but this positional golf type stuff. And we're looking at like, I expect him to play well at Harbor Town when he goes there. I expect him to play well at the Travelers if he's going there, like things like that. Like the Players, I think, will be a spot where we eventually see some good golf from Colin Morikawa. So those are corollary courses where I've been looking to kind of look this week, because I think the skill sets kind of overlap. But I don't know. I wanted a 20, and I don't even know if I was going to pull on 20, and we're like 16. There's some 14s on Colin, but I don't know.
I like him, and I know there's a strong correlation between the two sets of prices, but I will be looking for him in matchups. I think he has a nice kind of tight distribution of results.
Yeah.
I don't like him to win at this price, but I like him because, just talking about all the other guys kind of in his price range, I said I'm kind of out on Sung Jae. I'm a little out on Victor. Some of the guys he's going to be matched up with, maybe we get a big favorite price against Burnsy or something. It's somebody I'm definitely going to be using in matchups. So I like Morikawa, just not at the outright price here.
Yeah, this is not a spot for me for, like you said, Sanjay, Max. I'm going to wait a little bit. But the next tier is interesting. And Burns has been a guy that hasn't always been a form guy. Maybe he ends up being a course guy. Maybe this is one of those. We've seen him obviously do really well at, Valspar, some spots where he plays really well. I don't know. Last year, the win, I think again, just it was such a wave, aided win. And I don't want to discredit him. He obviously knocked out Scottie in the playoff, and he can get white hot with the putter. He was so bad last week. And just, again, don't want to pay the price for him to defend when he's coming off of some really bad golf. So some of the guys that I've been in and eyeing are in this next range, or again, we got some really good closing line value on a couple of them where they've gotten shorter. Some of the ones that I did not bet on that I really like, and I want to see if any of these guys are interesting to you. Justin Rose, I think, continues to make a lot of sense. He won here years ago, played really well last week. Just when you think about kind of small greens, positional golf, Pebble, and he won there, back in February. That makes a lot of sense. Ricky's playing okay, but this number's still way too short. Fleetwood is really interesting to me as well. Not a place where he's, come a lot or has done terrific, but he's just, I think, playing really steady. I didn't jump in on any of these guys. Siwoo is also, I really like Siwoo. That might be the addition of the card because he's longer than the rest of those guys, whereas, Rose and Fleetwood are creeping into the, upper 20s, whereas you can still get 45s on Siwoo. And the stuff that I ran this week, Siwoo popped really accurate off the tees, played well at some of these other events that are similar in terms of these types of Pete Dye type courses. And that's what this isn't a Pete Dye, but this is that type of positional track like Dye tracks are. Any of those guys of interest to you this week?
Yeah, I was close on Siwoo, but I did bet Ricky. The numbers come down. It's like 30 now. I'm not sure how much I love this. Like there were 33, 35s available before.
Okay, nice.
And it was just, I keep running for him, and everything I did with course fit here, especially over the last 50 rounds, it does still kind of match up for Ricky, which is annoying. I didn't want to have to bet him here. I'm not super excited about this one, but I end up just kind of doing what I always do with the value I show on some of these players. It's like, shit, this guy is, especially some of the scoring stuff. He's been good with the birdie or better gain. He's been good with bogey avoidance. He's just kind of playing good golf, and I hate betting on this guy. And that's the big knock to spotty course history here. And it's one of those things where you got to look at that with a little more context. Like, oh man, he played really bad the last 3 times he was here or whatever. It's like, yeah, well, he played bad everywhere. He had like this 3-year hiatus from playing good golf after I keep throwing Allison under the bus, but I mean, there was some timing issues, and once he got married and the golf game fell off a little, and he's kind of back. He's just straight up kind of back. It's been good. The form is super high considering everyone in the field, and he's been gaining strokes on bent grass. It is his strongest surface. And he still has distance off the tee, not viewed as like a bomber, but he's well above average off the tee at times. And the accuracy and greens and regulation numbers are just, kind of the ascension he's had here off the plateauing from the last 3 years has been kind of nice, especially in those approach numbers, greens and regulation. So 30, 35, I begrudgingly bet Ricky Fowler.
Let me see here. We got 33 out there on MGM. Looks like the best domestic number right now. If you have access to that, everything else is 28 or 30. So yeah, that's your best spot to go. So yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I think all these guys in this range, I think are definitely viable, right?
It's kind of my range. I took Fleetwood as well.
Okay, nice. Okay,
and it's again another guy I don't tend to bet a ton. And like you said, going along with the Fowler thing, hey, Fowler's played like shit here. And I mean, we had our reasons. Fleetwood just hasn't played here much. I think he may have only been here once. So it's super tough to lean on the course history stuff with Fleetwood, but he was just another one where it's like, man, you're kind of just popping and everything. The scoring splits I talked about with Fowler, same kind of thing. Birdie or better percentage, top 10 in the field. Bogey avoidance over the last 50 rounds or so, top 10 in the field. Some of the things I need from him, and it's just he is one of the good ball strikers in the field. But you have a lot of this trade-off. It's like Morikawa, pure with the irons, can't putt worth shit. Like you do sometimes see that dichotomy of, hey, if you're good at this, the short game sometimes struggle. Whereas Fleetwood's not elite at either, but they're both very high. He has very high floors for kind of the entirety of his golf game. And he's been playing decent golf and even throwing out, some of the stuff overseas as well. I think he has, was it 6 top 10s over the past year on this side of the pond, and he's playing well enough to win at 35.
Yeah, he is. I like that quite a bit. I think I like Fleetwood. I would lean Fleetwood over Ricky, but I think like Ricky's 5th in approach in the last 36 rounds. It's a pretty sizable
sample. I know. I kept looking. You know how you look for stuff like, oh man, I really want to bet this team tonight. And you're like trying to find the stat that convinces you to bet. I was doing the opposite with Ricky. I just kept running shit. The only thing I could run was like, he hasn't played well here. And right away, even in my brain, I'm like, that doesn't matter, man. He didn't play well anywhere. He's good now. Like I kept trying to find something to avoid Ricky, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I like that one. And yeah, Rose is interesting to me too. I just can't pull the trigger. It's a little short of a number. I don't know if I missed the best of the number, but it's just a little short.
His performance last year kind of pushed him down a little further. He was 150-1, man. Last week. So
there's another guy that we talked about it earlier. I think one of our first shows of the season where I like begrudgingly brought up Rose and Day, and it's like,
we lumped those two together, and they both had good years,
and they both already won. So like they're kind of back a little bit. So yeah, I think these are kind of the courses that Justin Rose will play really well at as he kind of winds down the last handful of years. He's he's in his early 40s. I mean, he's going to still show that he can still compete, but these are the spots where he should be on our radar. So,
it was close. I just hated the price level. He's another one too, where depending on how he plays, he's probably a viable use in matchups as well.
Yeah. 28's the best on him now, mostly 25s on Rose. That's a little tougher. I went early on, so basically made the decision to not bet Colin Morikawa. So I decided to just get the different tiers of poor man Colin Morikawa as we go down the board. I've had my heart broken many a times by Pete Overzet's doppelganger Russell Henley, and because I've never seen the two in the same place at the same time. So I don't know. I don't want to say anything, but look, Henley's been playing really, really well, and shocking, he just couldn't make a putt at Oak Hill and missed the cut. But leading up to that, 4 straight T19s or better. Playing at some of these courses that are very similar, right? Where you're like, hey, look, you played really well at match play. Like match play, tough to like take the data from that, but that course is kind of a little less than driver in a lot of spots. It's positional golf. Played really well at Harbortown. Played great at the Masters. Like those are spots where typically when you look at where he's played well in his career, it's these type of tracks. Shockingly, he really hasn't come here much in his career, which is surprising to me. So maybe this is just a spot where he realizes, hey, I can kind of compete. Going to find fairways, even though we've talked about, hey, you can bomb it. First in fairways, third in good drive percentage over the last 50 rounds. It's a large sample. I got 45. It looks like, let me see, we're mostly 35s now on Henley. Looks like 40 still out there on MGM, 40 on Rivers. So there's still some decent numbers on Henley. Look, if we get decent putting, which is, I know, a stretch, then he's going to be okay. So these are the type of courses, and I want to back Henley. Top 20 is plus 150 on MGM, which I think is a pretty nice price. You can get paid out on the ties there as well. So Henley was my shortest at 45. And like I said, I'm considering some of the guys I talked about, like Siwoo and Rose and stuff like that. But Henley is my shortest guy on the board this week.
I bet him as well.
Nice.
I took him. It was another one too, where it's like, we look at that good drives gained. It's a stat where it's like you either hit the fairway or you hit a green in regulation or the fringe from the rough. So it's either you hit a good drive or you hit a so-so drive that still ended up on the greens, which is something that's going to come to play here. We said this rough isn't super bad. It's not going to be very penal. It's going to be a case where, hey, you're in the rough, but you're in the correct side of the fairway, or you ended up on the right side of some of these landing areas and you gave yourself a good angle, even if it's from the long stuff. And somebody who's able to do that and hit out of the rough and still have good proximity is going to be fine. So, and yeah, I wrote horrible putter. Going to need great proximity. Luckily, he's first in the field in proximity. Like, maybe the putting isn't such a, if he can just get him close, maybe the putting isn't such a hindrance this weekend. He has won in Texas before. I had to go back a ways. I was honestly just scrolling to see when the last time he won was, because he did win at Mayakoba, which I don't count. Obviously, it's like is that an alt event or is that a real event? I never know.
It's an alt event.
It's an alt event. So I mean, the alt event, a win is a win is a win. He has won on tour at an alt event, but it's funny, he did win. I'll let you guess the name of the Texas tournament he won.
The Shell Houston Open.
Yeah, look at that.
Was it?
Yeah, I was going to see if you got the sponsor right because it was so long ago.
Yeah, it used to be Shell.
The Shell Houston Open.
Yeah. Yeah, he's tough. And again, like, that's kind of the makeup of my card is those type of guys. Shout out to Data Golf. They have this really awesome approach skill tool that they have come out with this year where you're able to kind of, bucket actually strokes gained, good shot percentage. You can do lots of cool stuff with it. Hopefully we can find a way to add that to our database in the coming years. But, you kind of, all my guys kind of fit that type of mode this week. They're really good in this like 150 to 200 bucket in terms of strokes gained approach. And even, a little bit having good performance because you can bucket it from fairway and rough like you could do with our data tool as well, which is really cool. So my guys all have that kind of common theme where, they can do that. So my next guy is, and I don't know if you have anyone between that you can.
No, that's where I cut it off. I didn't go super long here.
Okay.
I might, if I have time this afternoon, I have a handful of guys that have some longer prices that I may look at for top 20s, but it's still kind of a tough field. And I didn't love some of the bombers here, or the bomb prices rather.
So I don't love this price. So if you're catching it for the first time new, this seemed to have been a pretty popular look across the industry and across bettors because they're looking at 35s now. 40 is the best price on Cam Davis. I was able to get Cam Davis at 66 early on Monday morning. We didn't really know until he came out of the players and told us that he had been battling an illness. We still don't know what that illness was, but it was something because he was awful for basically all of January and February. Missed 5 straight cuts and then pops out of nowhere at Sawgrass, T6 there. The first of 4 T17s or better in the past 6 starts. 3 of those are T7 or better, including last week at the PGA where he finished T4. And this is a guy that, like, a young guy. I know you like him a lot. We've bet on him a lot over the last couple of years. Surprising to me, when you look at some of his better finishes, they're at like less than driver courses. And it kind of reminds me a little bit, and I don't like to make this comp because like Gary Woodland is one of the best ball strikers in the world who just is awful at putting, but Gary's played really well historically at less than driver courses. And maybe this is kind of a Cam Davis thing because he's played really well at Austin. He's played really well at Harbor Town. I know last week isn't a less than driver course because you needed to bomb it out there, but like he seems to have that type of game here as well. 7th here last year. So that course history is a little bit better. Bent grass greens, his best putting surface because he's not necessarily a great putter. It's a guy that I would typically think of like the 3M or Detroit, and he's played well there as well, including a win. But the less than driver experience, or I guess the results of those courses surprised me a little bit. So 66 was really popular. We're down to 35 and 40. I don't know that I chase that. You're going to get a top 20 at plus 150 on MGM. I like that number quite a bit if you're just looking to get some Cam Davis exposure, maybe some matchup stuff. But the 66s were really nice to start.
Yeah, that's worth a look-see in the data too. Some of these guys are, it's like, hey, he's a bomber and we're going to have to club down a lot. So does that matter? Well, it's like, yeah, but a lot of those guys are still very effective with a 3, with a 5. Just whatever they're clubbing down to, it still seems like they're just they're able to control it better. I'm not sure if that's just me and without actually empirical evidence, but it does feel like some of these guys who are really strong off the tee numbers, they can also do it when you do club down.
Yeah, and the distance plays throughout the bag, right? So like, yeah, you have a distance advantage off the tee, but yeah, your distance advantage still shows up in terms of like, hey, maybe you're able to hit a wedge where some in the field are hitting an 8. Those little things matter in terms of holding these small greens.
Yep.
And that's kind of a commonality throughout those other courses too. The positional golf type places, those tracks have smaller greens. And, Cam Davis, I like the bent grass stuff too. He's, again, not a great putter, but bent definitely is his best surface. So he's definitely one to look at in matchups.
Yeah, didn't mention, and we didn't mention that a lot off the top, but there are a bunch of holes here where it's like, if you can't, smack it 325 and maybe cut a corner here, you're probably just hitting a 3-wood. Like there's some less than driver holes all over this course, so it's gonna take good off the tee numbers, and just ball striking in general both ways. So it's something to think about too, as you're looking into some of these guys, stats over the last handful. I should start putting that together too. Like I'm sure we can find a subset of just like, hey, here's a bunch of courses where clubbing down is very common.
Yeah, for sure. You can go into
it might be better than even like, better than some of the like, hey, this is a comp course.
Yeah.
Because of the setup. Like, wow, this is a comp course because a lot of people are hitting their 3-woods on 6 holes.
Yep. Yeah, I see Ron will do that too with some of the things he'll post using our database to literally just select a handful of courses and see some of the commonalities. So that's definitely something that it's worth checking out with the tool. There's a next group here, pretty big group, because I shot it at Davis here in the 60 range, and now he's in the 40s, basically the 50 to 100 range. There's a handful of guys that are interesting. I didn't bet any of them, but worth noting. I think I love Taylor Moore's game, but I like him maybe a different style of tracks. We just don't have a huge database of Taylor Moore in terms of like, is he going to play really well at these type of courses? I know he can hit it really far. I know he can hit his long irons really far. We need just a little bit more Taylor Moore, but it's a guy that I've liked to back, and he's still out there at 66. Steven Yeager, I think, is pretty popular in the space. And you look at some of the short-term form, he's been playing really good golf. Seabez is playing pretty good in a spot where distance doesn't matter. He's really good on bent grass greens too. I'm waiting for Ron to run his bent splits. I'm assuming based off of just history of doing this for a while, Seabez is really good on bent. I think he's going to populate. Played pretty well last week too at a course that I don't think typically suits his game. Harris English, Lucas Herbert. Some of these guys are interesting to me that just didn't fit the card. My next one I thought you would have had. You didn't have any bombs, but I thought if you were going to have a bomb.
Oh, I told you I have a short list of top 20s, and
okay,
I peeked ahead. He's on that list,
and you can get a top 40 on our boy Emiliano Grillo at plus 145.
Yeah,
on FanDuel. It's a pretty nice number. Now, if you kind of look back and look at where Grillo has, what he's done in his career in terms of finishing positions, it is as streaky as it gets. He pieces together some like these really nice 4 or 5 event runs, and then it's just like miscut. And I don't know if that's, and I haven't dug deep into like what those course styles are, but man, he seems to be in the middle of a pretty good hot streak. Again, not great last week, but not super surprising. But second in the field in strokes gained approach from the 150 to 200 bucket in the calendar year, so a pretty large sample. Joked that like if Henley is the poor man's Morikawa, Grillo is the poor man's Russell Henley. There's some similarities there, but he's gained strokes putting in 5 of the past 6 measured rounds. Now that is not a part of the makeup of Emiliano Grillo. So something happening here. Maybe he's just running hot. Maybe he's made some changes and improved, but has played well here in the past. He's solo third in 2018, T8 in 21. I think the 100 is just a little too long. I don't think he wins this golf tournament. He's 100-1, but I wanted to get in on the 100 because I thought he probably should have been in the 70 range, the 66 range. And again, that gets us a nice top 40, top 20 price. You're probably going to be able to get, $350 or something on him to T20.
It's kind of like Rose last week where I said like, hey, I'm going to probably take some top 20, top 40 on him. And I don't think he wins, but I'm going to feel dumb on Sunday if he's in contention. I don't have a 150. So, and it didn't last long. And boy, if his putter was just a little better, there was a spot where it was the front 9. I'm like, he should be 6 under right now. And it may not have mattered, but he missed some putts on the front 9 that would have put him right in contention with everybody. So that would have been a fun sweat, having a huge number on a guy like that.
I was cheering for that one. I jumped in Saturday and grabbed a Brooks at like 5 and change because I had a FanDuel boost. But like I was just rooting for Rose because that was the best sweat we really had as a group. Ron had Scheffler. Scheffler got back in the mix. But 150 is a little bit more fun to cheer for than the chalk. So fun. I was pulling for your Rose ticket for sure.
Sure.
So you mentioned a bunch of guys that you're looking through in finishing positions. I have one more bomb, which will I think be a guy that I am just kind of locked in on betting for a while. Maybe he's my new Aaron Wise while Aaron figures things out. But there's some of the guys in the, I guess, upper range here, triple digits that are finishing position guys or matchup guys you want to mention?
Stevens, Putnam, Martin, Hayden Buckley, high on my list always. Yep. I'm a Hayden Buckley guy. Bramlett is someone I looked at. Obviously, Eric Cole getting a lot of love. I think he's going to be pretty popular in the DFS streets as well.
Cole and Stevens have been playing so well.
Yeah, Stevens is high on the list as far as who might make it through. At the rookie Eckroat, Akshay, and Rai. That's kind of the list.
Okay, yeah. So you get the full. You're not picking a lane here, right? Because you got
Dylan Wu.
Okay, because you got Bramlett, who's a bomber, and then you got Aaron Rodgers.
No, yeah, they all pop for different reasons.
Fairway,
they all have higher ceilings, I believe here.
And that's the interesting thing here, right? I don't think there's a single golfer archetype that you should hone in on, because we've seen with the Coke rack stuff and even Burns himself, you've seen guys with distance make a play. You mentioned Akshay. Akshay is the guy for me. He actually was my first pick. This is actually funny. I don't know that producer Dan got this. This is actually going to be my cover image for my article today. Use this Akshay picture from the Honda where he twice in the event found himself in the water, in the mud.
Yeah, who did it better, him or Tom Kim? Tom Kim, I respect him. I like him, but he did a poor job of looking cool in the mud.
He did.
He was just filthy.
And Tom Kim's a little too old for the full-on dad bod. But good for him. He's come over to the States and he's eating well. But Akshay, look, it's a wild ride right now. He's all over the place. You see some insane 64, 63 in Mexico back-to-back, and then you just puts a 71, 72. He's all over the place. But the baseline approach is so good. This guy's going to win golf tournaments. He just turned 21. He's 6th in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. If you dial it back even further, he's still in the top 10. I want to continue to just bet on this guy. I think the T40 at the 2-1 is a great number. I love the fact that he slid in this random girl's DMs and started dating her and put her on his bag. I just have, this is a full-on 21-year-old on the tour who's just doing things that you maybe expect your kid to do if he was on tour. But I think he's going to win golf tournaments. He's, long off the tee, pretty accurate off the tee. He just sometimes has these blow up holes that kind of ruin a round. But again, 200-1 is too long in a field that's, again, we mentioned it's strong, but it's not that strong. And I like the 2-1 number on the T40. So I'm going to continue to bet Akshay until he gets himself in the mix. He probably is going to win Mayakoba. He's going to win, random alt events in the swing season and stuff like that. But I just want to continue to get down on bad numbers. And again, a guy that I really like moving forward.
Yeah, and like you said, we saw that down in was it Puerto Rico? Where did he do that? Where he was hot as shit for 2 rounds.
Yeah, Puerto Rico and Mexico back-to-back weeks. He had I think he was 4th and 7th. So he can get in the mix for a guy that's down at 200. I don't want to say win equity because he's not winning golf tournaments. He's still just 21 years old, but actual I don't know, final page of the leaderboard on Sunday type of equity.
Potential, high. He's a high potential. He's a buy low stock.
Yeah,
this is a pink slips OTC stock that, except you can't lose your house on it. It's just one small bet, guys. It's a big upside kind of bet, and he could legitimately shoot 10 over here. Yeah, or he could be in contention on Sunday because we've seen it both from him. So
good drive percentage too, right? 14th in the last 36 rounds. So he's part of his wildness comes on the greens. It's not necessarily him spraying it off the tee. He teed the green just really good, and that's just kind of what I built in my card. And if I were to add some of the other guys, they'd probably fit the same model. But I just kind of on team no putt this week. Hopefully someone gets hot with the way that Russell Henley, Emiliano Grillo, and Akshay Bhatia that profile. They're not guys that are guys that we typically see with high baseline putting weeks. So
yeah, for sure. So all right. Well, if you guys think we missed somebody that you really like this week, you can drop it in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter. If you're in the Discord, hit us in there. If you're not in the Discord, private Discord, $20 a month gets you all the tools on the site, all the premium content, Ron's DFS articles, Ron's betting articles, Noonan's betting articles, everything in the Discord. And yeah, like I said, you can leave a comment on the YouTube channel. If you are watching on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. That helps with the algorithm and all that. Get some more people in the chat here as we go on through the summer season. And yeah, producer Dan, asks Michael Block to make the cut. Somebody asked me about this on a show yesterday, and I felt bad, but the words, it's like I couldn't stop the words coming out of my mouth. I'm like, I said, doesn't it feel like he just shoots 100 on Thursday? Like the letdown has to be so big.
I know.
Coming off, just like, you're playing with house money. I don't know. I'm sure he'll be as focused. And it is a smaller field, but it's 65 in ties. So I don't know. The price, I've seen the price on it. It's probably about fair.
I don't understand the anti-Michael Block stuff. Like, it's not a loud group. Or I guess it's a loud group and not a big group. But like, I don't know, man. Like, why are we like? Life is hard enough. The world sucks. And like, just cheer for something that's fun. I don't know. Like this is a really cool story. Let him do his thing. Like, I don't know. It's not like they shoved Michael Block down our throat on Sunday instead of other golf.
No, it was a lot of the
Rory. And he had like the
in
same
between
score.
rounds. Like
Yeah.
they really went hard on it for a while, which is whatever.
But it hasn't really happened in like 40 years to have a guy.
Fine with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun stories, and those things are, I don't know, pissing on that stuff. Just I don't understand that. I don't know. It just people are having fun. They want to prop up a guy that I think did well, and obviously is like 46, 47 years old. Like I don't know. Like just. It's easy to root for. I don't know why people want to tear that shit down. It's surprising to me, but whatever. It is what it is. I wouldn't bet on him this week, but he'll continue to probably see invites extended because these events, these tour, these people can do whatever they want, and it's a hot story. And I mean, the whole one was wild. The up and down at 18 was insane. That was incredible.
What sponsor exemptions are for.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Hey, let's get somebody in here.
Tickets.
Let's sell some goddamn tickets.
Yeah, I don't know. Miss me with the anti-Michael Block stuff. I get it. Don't bet on him. You want to bet him to miss the cut because he's probably had a whirlwind of. I
mean, I was cheering against that group, but I was cheering against his partner.
Right. That checks out.
I do have an anti-Rory kind of a vibe sometimes. So honestly, I've been speaking, just kind of closing thoughts. Saw some stuff out of Rory. He wasn't competing, but there were times on Sunday where he was under par, and that was about only about a dozen, 15 men can say that. And you say, well, Rory should be. He's a major champion. He's supposed to be one of the best golfers. But I mean, just all things considered, how he's played over the last month, maybe all the way back to Augusta. It's like, well, he's got to show me something. And I bet against him the hate stuff is more of a joke. I bet against, right. I'll bet on golfers I hate. I bet against golfers I love all the time based on the numbers and how I think the prices are. But like something to watch, like if he's starting to figure a few things out, obviously he's live to compete, and you might be getting a discount if they're going to start. We started the year where it's Scheffler, Rahm, Rory. They're priced the same. And then Rory took a big step back here, and we're pricing him down at like 12, 13, 14 when the other guys are 8-1 at a major. You might be getting a discount if you see something you like heading into maybe the Open.
And that's what's just interesting too. I haven't looked at any reshuffle since PGA ended, but I would imagine that there's essentially a new big three on the betting board when we get to LACC. It's probably going to be Scottie, Rahm, and Brooks with Rory behind that in terms of where the odds shake out. And again, I could open a link and look at that right now, but that's what would be my guess. So yeah, we might be able to get an extended price on Rory. If you don't happen to have, which seems to be a very, very, very popular future, Max was out at 35, 40 for a while. He's basically 20. I think he has like 3 of the 4 like lowest scores ever at LA Country Club. He's a LA kid. It's a very, very, very popular future bet that is long gone, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what those numbers.
He's 20-1 right now for Homa. I just pulled up Bet Online. Scheffler 8, Brooks 9, Rahm 9, Rory 11, and then you get Homa, Hovland, Smith, Morikawa, JT, and then heading to the Open, which I can't even think of the name of the course this year.
Yeah, where are they at? I forget where they're at for the Open.
It's still the British Open to me, by the way. But Rahm 9, Rory 10, Scottie 10, Brooks 14. Maybe less of a course fit over there for Brooksy, but I don't know. See, it's wild seeing him right at the top again with those guys. Royal Liverpool. Honestly, half of them are Royal something or other. It's just always having it at St. Andrews so I could remember. So I do love links golf, though. I enjoyed the Scottie Scheffler. I love the Open. Like I said, hit the thumbs up on the way out. Check us out if you need anything. Hit me up in the DMs. BetSports Golf, $20 a month. Gets you through the U.S. Open if you sub right now. Dan, take us out.